Legos vibrated under the weight of another hot morning. The air was thick with the scent of exhaust, acra frying on the roadside, and 1,000 unspoken dreams. Minibuses swerved. Street preachers shouted. Phones buzzed. But amid the chaos, one sound cut through it all. A small boy crying. He was barely 6, crouched beside a puddle on Abilene Street, clutching a cracked toy car. His shirt bore the faded shadow of Pikachu, and his sandals had lost their straps. The world walked past him. No one noticed. No one cared. Except her. Aminat Bello stepped down from a yellow Danfo, balancing a tray of steaming puff-puffs on her head. She was 24, sharp-eyed, her frame slim but sturdy. She didn't have time to waste. Sales were best before noon. But the boy sobs pulled something from inside her chest. She stopped, gently knelt. "Do you want me to fix it?" she asked softly. He nodded, wiping his nose. She crouched, shifting her tray aside, pulled out the same small knife she used to cut dough. She inspected the toy. One wheel was loose, the axle bent. Carefully, like it was a wounded bird, she began to tinker. The boy watched, silent now, hope filling the space where tears had been. A few meters away, the door of a black SUV opened. A tall man in a crisp, white Agbada stepped out, his shoes shining like polished onyx. He stood still, watching. He had a commanding presence. Familiar. Chief Tundajala, one of the wealthiest, most feared men in Nigeria. Owner of real estate empires, private security firms, and 3 TV stations. Aminat didn't notice him. She was still focused on the toy. She adjusted the wheel, flicked it. The car rolled forward a little. The boy clapped and laughed. Only then did she look up, and froze. Ajala stepped closer. "Femi," he said, his voice calm. "How long have you been here?" The boy turned. "Daddy." Aminat's heart stopped. This was his son. She stood quickly, backing away. Ajala's eyes met hers. "You fix his toy?" She nodded, unsure whether to run or bow. A long silence. Then, "What's your name?" "Aminat." "Aminat Bello." He stared. Something flickered in his expression. "You just changed your destiny, Aminat Bello." She blinked, confused, nervous. "Excuse me." He smiled. Not kindly, not cruelly, just knowingly. "Come with us." She hesitated, looked at her puff-puffs, now cooling in the dust. "Don't worry about those. Cool me." She followed. A simple act of kindness thrust her into a world she never imagined. Wealth, secrets, betrayal. The boy's toy had been broken, but the empire it belonged to was even more fractured. And Aminat Bello, poor, unknown, ordinary, had just walked into the first chapter of a hidden war. A war written in inheritance and blood. The SUV glided through the heart of Ikoyi like a ghost. Silent, spotless, insulated from the chaos of the city. Aminat sat in the back seat beside Femi, who was now fast asleep, his toy car resting on his lap like a healed wound. Chief Ajala didn't speak. He simply stared ahead, his fingers drumming against the leather armrest. Aminat's mind raced. Was she in trouble? Was he angry? Why bring her here? As the vehicle slowed before an enormous golden gate, she realized this was not a house. This was a fortress. A colossal mansion emerged behind hedges and white columns. 3 floors, guarded windows, security dogs, a fountain shaped like a lion spitting water into a marble basin. Amina had never even dreamed of seeing such a place. The gate opened without a sound. Inside, housekeepers lined up, heads bowed. She followed the chief in silence. No one looked her in the eye. A steward led her to a room, larger than her entire home in Ajij. The bed was high, soft. The curtains, silk. The air smelled like lavender and money. She didn't sit. She stood by the door, alert, suspicious. On the bedside table, a photograph. Chief Ajala, a woman in lace Iro and Buba, and baby Femi. The woman's face had been scratched out with black ink. She didn't belong here. Everything in her bones told her to run. But when she asked the steward for a way out, the reply was simple. The chief said you should rest. He will speak with you in the morning. She lay on the bed, awake, staring at the ceiling. She thought of her mother, her street, the heat, the smell of puff-puffs, and she wondered what the price of kindness truly was. Morning came, soft and golden. Amina was led to a private study filled with mahogany and secrets. Chief Ajala stood near a window, watching the lawn below. "You're not here because of what you did," he began, his voice deep, calm. "You're here because of who you remind me of." He turned. "Do you know who your mother was?" Amina frowned. "Safia. She died when I was young. I don't know more." Ajala walked to a cabinet, opened a drawer, pulled out a small box. Inside, a photograph of a young woman, barefaced, radiant, carrying a baby on her hip. Amina gasped. "That's her." Ajala nodded. "She worked for me 24 years ago. Quiet, brilliant, brave." Amina couldn't speak. Ajala stepped closer. "That child she carried was you." The world tilted. Amina clutched the armrest to keep from falling. "No. Yes. I am your father." He handed her a sealed envelope. "Inside is proof. If you choose to believe it, your world will change. If you choose to walk away, I will not stop you." She opened it. Her name, a birth certificate, his signature. Then screams. A maid burst through the door, breathless. "Sir, the safe has been broken into. The original will, it's gone." Ajala's expression shifted, hardened. He looked at Aminat, not with surprise, but fear. "He knows you're here." "Who?" Ajala stared into her soul. "Your half-brother." Aminat realized then that this was not a reunion. This was a chessboard, and someone had just moved their queen. Rain slicked the streets of Ikoyi. Thunder growled in the distance, but the true storm was within the golden gates of the Ajala estate. Aminat sat in silence on the edge of her bed, the birth certificate still open in her hands. Every letter on the page was a scream. She didn't want this. Not the name, not the wealth, not the war that came with it. 100 times she told herself to run, but something deeper held her, a pull stronger than fear. She needed to know everything. The next morning, a new face entered the estate. Madame Ronk Ajala, the chief's current wife. She wore an Ankara wrapper so stiff it barely moved, a matching geli that stretched toward the ceiling, and eyes like sharpened glass. She didn't greet Aminat. She studied her like a virus. Then she placed a check on the table. 100 million naira. "Take it. Leave. Today." Aminat looked at the check, then up. "You're afraid of me." Ronk's lips tightened. "No, I pity you. You don't know the cost of wearing that name. It doesn't just come with money. It comes with enemies. Old, patient enemies." Aminat folded the check slowly, placed it back on the table. "Tell my brother I'm staying." She walked through the corridor. Long shadows. Polished marble. And then he appeared. Idris Ajala. Young. Impeccable. Power in every footstep. His smile was casual. Cold. "So, you're the ghost child." She said nothing. He circled her slowly, like a predator. "You should have stayed in the gutter. Up here we bite." Aminat met his gaze. "I'm not afraid of bites. Only cowards hide their teeth." Idris's eyes narrowed. "Interesting. You have my father's fire. That means you'll burn like he did." He walked away, but something in his voice lingered. Not threat. Promise. That night, Chief Ajala summoned her to his private suite. He looked weaker now, pale, breathing with effort. His empire weighed on his chest. "They won't stop. Ronk, Idris, even the ones you haven't met yet. They want the throne." Aminat asked, "Then why bring me here?" Ajala coughed. His eyes glistened. "Because you're my last chance at redemption. Not just as a father. As a man." He handed her a key. Small. Gold. Ancient-looking. "This unlocks a safe in my study. Inside is everything. Recordings, letters, names. The truth about this family. About what they've done." Then his eyes locked onto hers. "But be warned, if you open it, you can't unlearn it. You'll never go back to your old life. You'll be hunted." She took the key and walked into the dark. She entered the study after midnight. The safe clicked open. Stacks of documents. Hidden contracts. Photos of people long erased from history. A video cassette labeled Safia Testimony. A medical report showing the manipulation of a will. And then a photograph. 2 babies. Twins. A girl and a boy. But she was an only child. Or so she thought. She leaned closer. Her hands trembled. And then, click, the door behind her locked. A hiss. Gas seeped from hidden vents. Aminat spoon. Tried the door. Pushed. Slammed. Nothing. She collapsed to the floor, coughing. Vision blurry. Someone had known she'd come. Someone had planned it. And in the security camera outside, Idris watched, sipping wine. Goodbye, little sister. The gas crept like a shadow, with no footsteps. Colorless. Soundless. Deadly. Aminat's lungs screamed. Her limbs went weak. The walls around her began to twist, and the world slowed into a heavy, suffocating blur. She fell to her knees. This wasn't fear anymore. This was death knocking gently. Then, her hand brushed something. A hinge, hidden beneath the rug. Metal. Cool. Real. A trapdoor. In the last flicker of her strength, she dug her fingers beneath it and pulled. It groaned open, revealing darkness below. She didn't hesitate. She fell into it like a secret. The tunnel was narrow, damp, and blacker than night. The air stank of mold and time. She crawled, coughing, shaking, every breath of victory. Minutes passed, or hours. Then finally light. Faint, flickering. A hidden chamber. Candles burned low in cracked holders. Books, tapes, letters scattered like forgotten whispers. And in the center of the room, on a wooden table, a voice recorder. A label written in trembling ink. For Aminat, if she survives. She pressed play. Chief Ajala's voice. If you're hearing this, then my past is hunting you the way it hunted me. I built a kingdom on half-truths. And now, the full truth rests in your hands. There was another child. Not just you. Asson, born the same night. My true heir. They told me he died. But I never believed it. Someone in this house has been lying for over 2 decades, and I suspect it's not just Idris. Trust no one, Aminat. Not even me. She paused the tape, heart pounding. She had a brother. Not Idris. Someone else. Somewhere in Lagos. Alive. And someone had tried to kill her to keep that truth buried. Meanwhile, back in the mansion, Idris entered the sealed study, expecting a corpse. Instead, the room was empty. The trapdoor, open. His jaw tightened. She escaped. Behind him, Ronk entered silently. She's clever. She's dangerous. You failed. Idris poured a drink, his hand shaking slightly. I won't next time. Back in the tunnels of Lagos, Aminat emerged in an abandoned warehouse near the lagoon. A man waited for her. Old, tall, wrapped in a brown kaftan. His eyes sharp. He bowed slightly. Safia told me you would come one day. She flinched. You knew my mother? He nodded. She entrusted me with the truth. And with something else. He handed her a worn leather notebook. In here is everything. Names. Secrets. The path to the one you seek. Aminat opened it, trembling. On the first page. Samuel. Ilorin General Hospital. Transferred. Disappeared. She looked up. Is he my brother? The man smiled faintly. You'll find out soon enough. But be careful, because now you're not just a threat. You're a target. Aminat wiped the blood from her temple, clutched the notebook, and stood. She was no longer running from her story. She was walking straight into its fire. And across the city, in a cramped mechanic's shop, a young man wiped grease from his hands and stared at a crumpled photograph in his pocket. A woman holding 2 babies. One of them was him. Bariga. Midnight. The city was quieter here, but the silence felt like a trick, thin, waiting to be shattered. In a one-room shack behind a mechanic's yard, lit by a single buzzing bulb, a young man sat hunched over a broken radio. His hands were scarred, his shirt torn at the collar, his eyes watchful like a soldier who no longer needed war to fight. His name was Samuel. He didn't know who he was. Not really. He only knew what he was. Forgotten, left behind, raised by strangers, running from a fire that had no face. Tonight, however, he couldn't stop staring at the envelope in his lap. Inside, a photo. 2 babies. A woman with tired eyes and a tender smile. A name on the back, Safia. The same name that haunted his nightmares. He had tried to forget. Now he couldn't. Because on the news that morning, he saw her. Aminat Bello. And in her face. His own. In a dusty corner of Ikorodu, Aminat sat in a warehouse filled with old typewriters and the smell of memory. The leather notebook lay open on her lap, and every page was a puzzle missing one piece. Samuel, born the same day, disappeared from Ilorin Hospital during a fire. No death certificate, no burial, just a vanishing act orchestrated by a hand within the Ajala estate. Alhaji Musa, her mother's former confidant, watched her silently. "Are you sure it's him?" she asked. He nodded once. "You'll find him near oil and rust. Look for a man who walks like he's broken, but stands like he never fell." Aminat stood. "Then I'll find him, and we'll finish what they tried to bury." Elsewhere in a dim alleyway, Samuel heard a knock at the side door of his garage. He opened it cautiously. She stood there, breathless, drenched in rain, a notebook in her hand. Aminat. Their eyes met. Neither spoke. She took a step closer. "I think you're my brother." He exhaled like something inside him had finally collapsed. "I've spent years trying not to exist. Why would anyone want to find me now?" She handed him the notebook. "Because they tried to erase you. But I see you." He took it, flipped through it. His mother's name, the hospital record, photos of a man in white Igbada, a father he'd never met. Samuel's voice was low. "And if I don't want it?" Aminat smiled sadly. "Then we burn it all together. But first we finish the story." For the first time in decades, the lost son and the forgotten daughter stood side by side. And for a moment, just a moment, the world felt like it could still be mended. But peace in this city never stays long. A black SUV screeched to a stop outside the garage. 3 men stepped out. Gunfire shattered the night. Aminat and Samuel ducked, crawling through oil puddles and broken parts. One bullet struck the wall where Aminat's head had been seconds before. They burst through the back exit, running. Through alleys, markets, rain. Samuel led her into a public bus, crouching among passengers. "They found me," he said, breathless. Aminat gripped his wrist. "No, they found us." Later, in a cheap hotel room, they sat on the floor with a notebook between them. Samuel held a small pistol. His hands no longer trembled. "You're not safe with me." Aminat looked him dead in the eyes. "Neither of us were ever safe. But now we're not alone." He laughed, dry and short, then nodded. Together, they began to draw a map. A plan, a way to bring down the empire from inside. Back in the Ajala estate, Idris watched blurry surveillance footage. 2 figures escaping. 1 notebook. 1 gun. He poured a drink and whispered, "Let them come. I want to see how far they think blood will take them." Behind him, Femi stood silently in the hallway, clutching his toy car. And for the first time in his young life, he chose a side. Ikoyi. 1 week later, the sky hovered low, swollen with thunder, as if Lagos itself were holding its breath. Inside the marble halls of the Ajala estate, silence reigned. Chief Tundajala had not been seen in days. Ronk moved like a shadow, speaking only in murmurs. Idris held meetings behind closed doors. Something was unraveling, and they all felt it. But beyond the gates, the storm was already on its way. Aminat and Samuel walked into a court building at dawn. No cameras, no lawyers, no press, only a sealed envelope. Inside, a DNA match, a letter from Safia, handwritten and dated the day she disappeared. A copy of the original will. They submitted it to the registrar in silence. When they stepped back out into the morning light, Lagos looked different. Not brighter, not freer, just quieter, like the pause before a final breath. That evening, the Ajala estate was bathed in gold. A gala had been arranged, an annual event honoring the family's legacy of power and generosity. Important guests arrived in black cars. Flashbulbs popped. Wine flowed. Inside the ballroom, Idris stood beneath a crystal chandelier, smiling without teeth. "This is what a dynasty looks like," he told a foreign investor. Crisis-proof. Blood-made. But just as the string quartet reached the crescendo of their waltz, the doors opened. Aminat stepped in. Beside her, Samuel. Behind them, the registrar. 2 plainclothes officers, and a small, quiet boy clutching a familiar toy. Femi. The crowd went still. Idris's smile didn't move, but his eyes, they burned. "Security," he barked. But no one moved, because behind Aminat, Chief Ajala appeared. Old, weak, holding a cane. but alive. No more lies, the chief said. Not tonight. Ajala stepped forward, unsteady but unbroken. Samuel is my nephew, the only rightful heir to this estate. Gasps rippled through the ballroom like thunder on glass. Ajala turned to Aminat. And she is my daughter. She has no claim to my fortune, because she asked for none. But she saved my son. He faced Idris. You, Idris, tried to kill your sister. You hired men to silence the truth. You stole from the blood that gave you everything. Idris laughed. Cold. Dismissive. This family was built on silence. I just protected the tradition. Ajala nodded slowly. Then tonight it ends. Chaos erupted. Idris lunged toward the stage. Samuel moved faster. Two men clashed in suits and rage. Aminat grabbed Femi, shielding him. A shot rang out. Screams. Glass shattered. Ron was pulled back by police. The chandelier crashed. And then, silence. Idris lay bleeding. Not dead. Not victorious. Just empty. Aminat stood over him. He looked at her with the last ounce of venom. You think you've won? She knelt. No. I just survived. A week later, the Ajala estate was stripped of its name. Samuel declined leadership. He returned to Bariga, opened a foundation for orphans. Aminat took the keys, not to rule, but to restore. She reopened the estate to the public, turned it into a school, a shelter, a place where blood didn't matter, only truth. Femi, still carrying his toy, now walked the halls with purpose. But in a prison cell, Ronk received a letter, handwritten, unmarked. It read, there was another, born in the north, a girl, not marked by fire, but by silence. She remembers everything. Ronk smiled. Then the Ajala name isn't dead yet. Dawn over Lagos. The sky was pale, reluctant, as though mourning what the night had revealed. The Ajala Empire no longer stood tall. It shook on crumbling pillars. In the media, Aminat was both savior and scandal. To some, a brave daughter. To others, a girl who had ruined the legacy of men. But inside the former Ajala estate, now quiet and stripped of its past glory, she sat alone in the chief's old study. A single sheet of paper lay before her. A contract. If she signed, she'd be the new chairwoman of Ajala Holdings. She would control everything. She stared at it, unmoving. Samuel knocked once, then entered. Grease on his sleeves, dust on his boots. He hadn't changed. He never would. You don't have to do this, he said. But someone has to, she replied. He nodded, then pulled out a letter. This arrived for you. She opened it. The handwriting was foreign, wavering. Inside, a second will, dated 2 days before the attempt on her life. A second secret. The will read, Aminat, if this reaches you, I have failed to say aloud what I feared to accept. Samuel is not your brother. He is my nephew, my brother's child, stolen from his grave and raised like a ghost. You are my only living child, my true heir. But this name, Ajala, has broken better people than you. If you keep it, use it to build, or else let it die. Her hands trembled. She looked at Samuel. We're not siblings. He stared. You're the heir. They both laughed. But there was no joy, only weight, only truth. That night, Aminat walked the estate grounds. She passed the garden where Femi played, past the lion fountain that never stopped flowing. And in the reflection of the water, she saw not her own face, but that of a woman she had never met. Her mother, Safia. Far away, in Port Harcourt, a woman in combat boots stepped off a boat. She had a tattoo on her back, a serpent wrapped in chains. Her name was Zara. In her hand, an old burned photo. Chief Ajala, a young maid, a baby in her arms, Zara's mother. And next to her, scrawled in faded ink, for Zara, tell no one who you are. She folded it carefully, lit a cigarette. Aminat doesn't know I exist. That's good. Let her think the story is over. She smiled without warmth. On the final chapter, back in Lagos, reporters surrounded Aminat as she stepped out of the registrar's office. She had declined the title, handed over control to a team of educators and reformers. She chose to rebuild, not rule. What does the Ajala name mean to you now? One reporter asked. Aminat looked into the camera. It means nothing unless we use it to lift those it once buried. But that night, as she closed the gates of the estate one last time, a note had been slipped beneath the front door. No sender. Only 4 words, written in blood-red ink. She is coming home. Lagos breathed like a beast before a storm. The sun was high, but the wind felt cold, strange, like the city sensed something returning from beneath its forgotten bones. Inside the old Ajalo estate, now a community school and safe house, Aminat stood before a crowd. Mothers, mechanics, children in uniforms donated by NGOs. She smiled, holding a ribbon in her hand. Today marked the opening of the Ajala Women's Center, an institution not of legacy, but of healing. This land once belonged to a name, she said. Now it belongs to the people. Cheers erupted. Cameras flashed. But far away, someone was watching. Zara, in the back of a crowd, hooded, calm, unreadable. A stranger with her mother's face. Her fingers curled around a blade hidden beneath her scarf. She had been born in the north, raised in silence, shaped by betrayal. Her mother had whispered stories of a man in white agbada, of promises, of abandonment, of bloodlines erased. She hadn't come for money. She came for justice, for rage, for vengeance. That night, Aminat wandered the courtyard alone. Children laughed in the distance. The air smelled of jollof rice and night flowers. Then, a presence. She turned. Zara stepped from the shadows. They stared at each other for a long time. 2 women, 2 mirrors, 2 paths that began with a man who had given them nothing but his name. Zara spoke first. You live like a queen, but I grew up eating stones. Aminat didn't flinch. And yet here you are. What do you want? Zara's eyes burned. To bury the Ajala name. With you. She lunged. The blade flashed. Aminat ducked, grabbed her arm, twisted. They fell hard onto the gravel. No one screamed. No one watched. This was a fight that belonged only to them. Blood smeared gravel. Hearts pounded like drums. Finally, Aminat pinned her down. I'm not your enemy. Zara spat. Then who is? Aminat's voice trembled. The silence. The shame. The men who left us to fight each other while they vanished behind their walls. Zara stared up at her, and for the first time, the rage in her eyes cracked. Underneath it, grief. Zara dropped the blade. Aminat rose and extended her hand. Zara took it. No epalayi. No tears. Only a breath shared between 2 women who had every reason to hate. And one reason not to. Weeks later, Aminat sat beneath a neem tree, reading to a group of children. Samuel taught carpentry near the gate. Femi chased birds, his toy car now covered in glitter and tape. And Zara? She oversaw the self-defense program at the center. She said little, but she stayed. A new plaque was nailed to the estate's gate. This place no longer carries the name Ajala. It carries every name that was once forgotten. And on a quiet afternoon, far from cameras or ceremonies, a little girl dropped her toy on the ground. It cracked. She cried. A woman knelt beside her, smiled. Want me to fix it? Her name was Aminat. Thank you so much for experiencing this powerful story with us. If you loved Aminat's journey, from a simple act of kindness to uncovering buried legacies and surviving betrayal, then you'll love what's coming next. Subscribe now to our YouTube channel. Now, we want to hear from you. What shocked you the most in this story? Do you think Zara deserved redemption or revenge? Did Aminat make the right choice by giving up the Ajala name? Would you watch a prequel about Safia's life? Or a sequel with Femi as the next generation? Which scene do you want to see animated first on our channel? Leave your thoughts in the comments or replies. The most powerful responses might inspire the next storyline. Subscribe, like, share, comment.